All right, kicking it off. So, I hope you can see it properly. So, we're gonna talk about agent simulation today. We got a very engaging subtitle: Stress Test Agents Against Synthetic Users. Um, the yeah, before we go there, so the we should introduce this and kind of explain what the purpose is for something like this. Right? What is the problem that we're trying to solve here? And oh, actually, we do have slides for this, right? Okay, I will stick to the slides. I will stick to the slides. So first, quick introduction about OrcAI. So we're an Gen AI collaboration platform. We have three main pillars: agents, router, and observability. Observability is the more kind of data and analytical side, and then the router and agents are very operational. To put it in kind of relational and relational concepts, if you think about agents, they can be CrewAI, LangGraph, or Leda. For the router, think Light LLM or OpenRouter. For observability, think about LangFuse, LangSmith, and Arise. So we have all of that together. That gives us kind of the superpower that we have the data and the entities that are running based on that data together. So we can, we can track what is happening, then we can assess what is going right and what is going wrong, and that feedback directly feeds back into the entities that are actually being run. So it's quite a powerful paradigm. Yeah, the reason why we wanted to talk about this problem today is that we see a lot of things going wrong with agents in production. And typically, the reason why these are going wrong is because the agents weren't properly tested in these edge case scenarios. So these are two very famous examples. So there's the Chevy of Watsonville, where a customer got a car for $1 because the agent agreed to it, and in that state or in the US, those kind of agreements are binding. So the individual got a car for $1. And then we have Air Canada, which had this refund issue with the agent, where I think the agent was being gaslit into giving them a refund when it actually wasn't applicable. And so these things are kind of easy to prevent if you do proper testing with your agent beforehand. But doing that proper testing is kind of challenging because in the world, in the wide world, there can be so many different situations of people asking your agent different things. There's so many different dimensions to test on. Just like, with a human, the only reason why you have trust in that a human can answer appropriately to a wide range of situations is that is kind of what humans are good at. But an agent is very much not at the level of a human and will just go along with things that a human wouldn't do. So finding that gap is kind of the essence of today. So what we have done is we have released a package or an open source tool that will help you to do agent simulation. And what agent simulation does is exactly what it sounds like. It tries to simulate users for your agent to interact with. We will judge those interactions and we will figure out where that agent is failing. Very simple. That is what we do. So yeah, we're going already a bit into the weeds here. What we're doing, we have a three-step process. We start with your agent, of course, and we give that to our generator. So we say, this is my agent, this is what it's supposed to do, this is the clients that it's interacting with. And based on that, the generator starts working and it's like, okay, what are the personas that I need to create to test this agent properly? So the generator in this case is generating two things. It is doing personas and it is doing scenarios. And the and we combine those two into individual use cases or situations that will then be fed into your agent and to test how does your agent respond to these situations. So this is a quite public-facing agent oriented, or anything that a user may need to interact with. If you have an asynchronous agentic pipeline, yeah, this may not be the right tool. But if there is a user interface or interacting with this, then it's applicable. After we run the user simulator against your agent, we have these interactions. We run those interactions through our judging agent that will tell us, okay, this is what's going right, this is what's going wrong, and then you get a very nice report. As mentioned, this is all an open source package that we've developed, so it's in Python. So you do need to use Python for now, and it is best used either from Python or from the CLI, so you can also use it there. And in addition to that, we've also released a package of skills so that your coding assistant can also easily work with what we've built. So the use case that we want to look at today is called Sterling, which is a credit card customer service agent. So the purpose of this agent is to help people figure out issues with their credit card. My balance, when is it being deducted, what's my limit, what's my interest, everything like that. So it has access to an FAQ that it can ask for questions, and then we have some mock tools to have it get customer information. And we want to see where does this fail. Yeah, okay, so covered this mostly. It is an org agent, so we'll have a look at that in a second. And obviously this agent has some limitations, right? So it can't do refunds, limit raises, or fee waivers without verification. And in the realm of the FAQ, it can basically do anything, just be as helpful as possible. And with this, we see how the agent fares. So as mentioned, you can invoke the agent simulation module in two ways. One is on the command line, the other one is from Python. When you're doing it from the command line, you also have a combined version of this, but in essence, it's a two-step process, right? Generate, then the simulate, and then you can inspect the results in a local dashboard or on org as an experiment.
And quick question, Bok. If I want to specify exactly the persona that I want, is that also possible? And yeah, how could we do that?
Yeah, good question. So we have three ways of specifying this in increasing levels of details. Let me move over to here. So
Great.
this is the most detailed version. You can specify an individual persona and scenario, and a persona has these values. So a name, patience, assertiveness, politeness, technical level, communication style, and then background. And all of these kind of feed into the LLM that will then start generating the data points that come out from this. So it's very detailed. And if you want, you can control all of this, or if you don't care that much, so this is the lowest level. This is the highest level. You just, or rather, this is the highest level. You just say I want 3 personas, and then the middle one is every persona can be described with kind of one sentence. So old lady that has her first computer, and she speaks not great English, something like that can be a situation. So that is the middle ground. You just have a one sentence natural language description.
And I mean, here you are showing use an org agent, right? The agent Sterling here example is an agent that we have deployed in our workspace, right? And that's the entry point. The framework will get all the information about that agent, like the tool calls, the tool that this agent has access to, the knowledge base, the system prompts, of course, and that will be used as an input to help to generate these personas and scenarios, right? Yeah, right. And what if I want to use an external framework that's not an agent that's not exactly deployed on org? How would that work? Is that even
Yeah, so we can
possible?
do that. We didn't add a slide for that, right? I thought we did add a slide for it. I don't know where it went.
I
It
hope
is
we have the
possible.
demo for that. Yeah.
We have the demo for that. Yeah. It is very possible. So for that, you typically need to use the the SDK. So for the CLI, we have default support for just an OpenAI model, and you give an agent description. Um, and we support the Vercel endpoint because that's just a remote endpoint. So for the rest, you have to wrap it in Python and then pass it to the SDK. Um, and we'll show later what that looks like, but it's very simple.
Nice, nice. It's here. It's here, isn't it?
Oh
Here,
yeah,
when you
sorry, it is
define
here.
the
Yeah,
targets, the target is just a function here, and you do whatever you want in that function. So that's how you
yeah,
simulate your agents, and you put all the information that you can in the agent description. So the agent description will be used for as the input, right?
yeah, indeed. So you
The
have to
starting
fill it in
point.
here. Yeah.
Right, right. Yeah.
I think we might extend this to be a bit more like red teaming, where it does a more, kind of magical assessment of what is the agent that I'm dealing with here. But for now, this is the way to go about this. And so anything that takes in messages and that returns a string works with this format. You can pass it in there.
Right, right. Yeah.
Yes, we've covered this. So then we go to the demo. So different slide. Just gonna pull this up. So I'm gonna be copying the scripts from the slide. So hopefully it is all exactly the same for you. In this case, we add UV run to the commands because I am working in my local branch. Let me just increase the size of this and like that. Right, so we start with generating some data. So we're using the org router to generate this data. So for in terms of setup, it will use the org router by default. If you can also override all of these LLM invocations, so you can also use your own OpenAI compatible endpoint or just OpenAI or different other providers. But for that, you also need to use the SDK. Now we've created our data set, and so I think it would be cool if we check out what does this look like. Where is my data set? There we go. And then, oop. So this is now our data set. So, right, we just asked for 3 individuals. So we have a careful freelance designer. So maybe just to clarify, so we have 3 individuals and then 3 situations. So we have 9 data points in total, 3 times 3, that we can see here. And let me open this in here, and then you can see it like that. So if we look at the top, we see the persona. So we get a careful freelance designer, formal, called Maya, 34-year-old freelance graphic designer, stable emotional arc, and neutral cultural context. Oh yeah, so I didn't actually get to mention this in the input, but emotional arc is also a field that you can add, which can be, becomes progressively angrier or becomes progressively more frustrated, something like that. So you can steer that as well.
Yeah. We have a question related to that from Wilfred. How does a client knows how to fill in the details like assertiveness? How do they determine the data points? So it's related to that. If you can go in more details, how exactly
Yes.
impatience, assertiveness. How exactly is that is specified? And if we can specify it also, or if the framework is generating those numbers.
Yeah. Yeah, good question. So it can be both, and it's really depending on what it is that you want to test with your agent. Um, the reason why it's optional is because most people won't have a feeling of, do I select 1 or 0 or zero point 0.3 or zero point 0.7? The whole purpose of doing an agent simulation like this is also to get um, confidence from large numbers. So doing an agent simulation with 3 personas likely is not the way that you want to test this unless you have a very specific edge case that you want to test, right? Like, a super angry, super impatient client, like somewhere in that edge. Then you can say, I want to crank all these numbers and just hammer it down and see what happens. Typically, what you expect more to happen is you have the whole distributions of people that it may interact with, and you want to test, a proper representation of that full distribution. And so that means varied personas with varied characteristics, so that at the end you have a sense of, if different people interact with my agent, it will almost always properly work. I say almost always because there's never guarantees with this. You can only get, yeah, all you can do is the best that you can. But these are still, in the end, non-deterministic systems with LLMs. But we can definitely go from, 80% sure to 99% sure. With that,
Yeah, Juan
yeah.
also asked about, I mean, how where is the link for the tester? And yeah, with that question, maybe I'm not sure. Maybe one can specify a little bit better, but I'm wondering if it's about the agent simulator. What exactly is that agent simulator? How is that defined?
Yeah, if you mean the tester, like all of these sources will be shared after they're in the evaluatorq repository where also all of the code is. So it should be easy to find. We will send it out afterwards, and there's also a link at the end of the slide, so you can easily copy it from there. Um, Proceeding with the scenario, so we have a range of fields here. I'll just fold this in. So name, goal, context, starting emotion, criteria, and then is edge case, conversation strategy, and we can also do input format and ground truth. This is not something for here. Um, the Yeah, and so here we can configure different things, right? So we have the characteristics of the individual, and then we can also have characteristics of the situation. So in this case, while Maya is normally, stable and I don't know, quite patient and quite polite, in this case she is frustrated because she has a charge on her credit card that she doesn't recognize. Um, we have this attribute about is edge case as well because um, right, while it is useful to understand that in the golden path scenarios, like, things in the middle of the distribution, like the, normal use cases are handled well. Typically, it is much more interesting to understand that the edge cases are handled well. So we have a specific flag here for that. And you can set a ratio, like I want 20% of my data points to be these edge cases. In this case, it's not that. Um, and yeah, so conversation strategy, cooperative. So you can set some more here. And then this is where the kind of the gold comes in the end. So the first message is the first message that we synthesize based on the persona and the scenario that is then being sent to your agent. So this will actually be the thing that the agent will receive. And based on that, the interaction loop then starts to happen between the agent, your agent and the user simulator agent.
But at this point here, we just generated the scenarios, right? We haven't simulated anything. We just have the
Yeah.
scenarios. You review the scenarios that were generated, and if you don't approve, you can delete. You can remove the ones that you don't like. If you want to generate more, you don't need to start from scratch, right? You can expand from these already, right?
Yeah, yeah, indeed. So
And
that's
use
why
this
we
as
have,
any point.
yeah, that's why we have this two-step process. So because you may want to save this data and rerun it later with another simulation run to understand, has my agent changed, or has something else changed, and does that impact the behavior? So this can be the basis of kind of your progressively increasing data set of cases that you want to test. Or it can be added, increasing in size over time. Doesn't have to, but yeah, that's you can just combine them together.
Right, right. So I mean, one thing that you can do with this is just share with your, I mean, the domain expert, the project manager, or whoever is more, I mean, is whoever is closer to the use case, to the users, and approve. And yeah,
Yeah,
you iterate on that, right? Yeah.
yeah, indeed, indeed. Mm, let me think. Was there something else here too? Oh, oh yeah, sorry, the criteria. That's because that's a very important part. So what we add as a right. So the question then is, okay, how do I measure that my agent was behaving correctly in this situation? And so based on the agent description and kind of how it is supposed to be handling things, we define this list of criterias, which have one of two types: must happen or must not happen. So right, so there are certain things that it shouldn't be doing, and there are certain things that it should be doing. And then we also link them with an evaluator, and this is shown as output on the experiment afterwards as well. But yeah, so this list of criteria is very important because based on this, we decide, was this data point, was it a successful data point? Was it a failed data point? Was it, 2 out of 3? Were there any non-negotiables that were broken in that conversation? And that's really important to know. So during the analysis afterwards, these are essential to review.
Yeah, Dila has a question here related to this. Everything that we have here is structured in this scenario, like the criteria, all this metadata and the information that will be used as input. How is this? How do we get the message at the end? I mean, what exactly is the agent simulator doing with this information? Is this information the input for the agent simulator generate the conversation? Or is this a metadata and the conversation is already generated here?
So this is metadata. So the user system prompt is the thing that will go into the user simulator, right? So you can inspect, okay, what is the user simulator doing here? So here you see it gets information about the persona. And then yeah, okay. So I'm gonna guess this is quite long. And somewhere here it should get data about the situation as well, right? Do not break. Oh, okay. It said do not break character. So you can look at this, you can change it, you can tailor it to your individual use case. Um, right now, I don't think we have more like additional instructions that you can send to guide the generation of this system prompt. That could be something to add on later if there is a need for that. But this is how it currently works. And so this thing goes into the user simulator as a system prompt. Then the first message is kind of added on top of that to start the interaction off. And then when your agent receives that message, it sends a response. Then both that first message and the response and the user system prompt are then all three to generate the follow-up response
Okay.
from the user simulator.
Okay. I think that's clear to me. Dylan, I mean, Dylan can also follow up more questions if.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that was a nice explanation. Yeah. Okay, so this is the starting point for the conversation, and then the
Yeah.
observability. I mean, how can we see this actually working later? We can see in the platform, right? We can look at the traces, we can look at the threads, right? But for that, we need to actually run the simulation. That's where we are right now, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so for these generations, you will already see some traces in the work portal. But yeah, this is not the interesting part, I would argue. No, that's not what we want to do. So then we would proceed with the simulation, right? So we take the inputs from our previous run. We say the target is Agent Sterling here, name from scratch. Yeah, so we're actually not running from scratch, we're running from pre-generated data points 3 by 3. And hopefully this looks better. So we get this plan of what it's expected to be doing. So we have 9 data points. We have max turns of 10, so it can actually go quite many times back and forth with the agent. We'll do 5 at the same time. Yeah, it might take a while. And then we have the evaluators, goal achieved, and criteria met. So these we saw that in the data, right? With evaluators null. So you can link these two criteria. And so if either the and so we're measuring was the goal achieved and were all the criteria met as evaluators that are handled in the experiment later on.
And a quick question here: could I specify additional evaluators at this point?
I don't think so.
At least right now.
Yeah, right now I don't think we expose that functionality. So the way you would do it is you would add a criteria into these data points, and you can guide that, and then check. The reason why we've done it like that is the way it works. Perhaps I should pull up the slides for that.
Uh, Maybe you can also just trigger the generation. So
Yeah, we
while
can
you
trigger it. Yeah, good point. Um, so what we have. I do a preview here? The future is now. Right, so in his process, the judge, okay, I should do that. The judge, the judge is one agent that is looking at all the criteria. So normally in org, what we have is you have one evaluator, which has its own evaluation prompt, um, and which is doing an independent LLM call. In this case, we've chosen a different format, which is one judge with several criteria, because it would otherwise be very hard to kind of scale this and make it flexible to tailor to a wide range of cases. So yeah, so the easiest way is to add a criteria that makes sense for your specific use case, rather than yeah, adding on top an additional evaluator like an org evaluator. Um, so that's the current way.
right. So
Okay.
where we are, what are we looking at? So the simulation is running 2
Yeah.
out of 9. So does it mean that it's running the second scenario?
It means 2 out of 9 have finished. So we
Right.
have different. You can also run this with dash VV to make the output more verbose. That will show you the individual data points. Right now, you just have to kind of wait for them all to finish. Um, yeah, maybe good to clarify here as well. So an org agent has a model that it uses. The model here is not the model that the agent uses. It is the model that we use for the other part. So that is the agent simulator. That can be the synthetic data generation. the judging. So that's the model that we use for all of those steps in the process, rather than the actual user simulation.
Yeah. Okay. So otherwise, so the idea is not to use the same model as your agent is using, right? So otherwise, you have the same bias, the same blind spots, right?
Yeah. Now you see we have a
Okay.
beautiful error here. So some of
Yeah.
the one of the data points it did not like. No
Hmm.
text and no tool calls. Yeah, that's not what we want to see.
Right. But okay, one
But we do have
fail.
five
That's fine.
completed. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fine.
That's. I
We'll,
mean,
we're
real
talking over
words.
it.
Yeah, real world
This is a
agents.
real demo, ladies and gentlemen. Nothing mistakes here.
So at
Um,
least you say this failed. Yeah, we will know later why.
mhm. Um, yeah, I wanted to see if we have the code for the custom agent, but I think we have it just in the slides, but I can do quick while we have time. So external agent, right? So this is the code for that. Um, yeah, very nice with all the syntax highlighting. Um, we already went roughly over it, but so anything that you know you can define that takes in messages. So these are just chat completion messages from OpenAI. Takes that in, returns a response. Anything like that can be passed into here. So, right, if you want to have the simplest version, you have my agents. You just say, okay, we want to do the messages, and I want to do, we want to do an annoying child agent. So I'll just return the last message of the agent. Um, right, so it's just repeating what the last input is saying. So this is my annoying child agent, but this could be an agent that you pass to the simulate step as well. Won't be very useful, but just to highlight how you can use that.
Right. I think it finishes. So how? I mean, how do we interpret the results? No, it didn't fail. I mean, it clearly highlighted that there was an error. So I wouldn't
Yeah.
count.
Yeah, so we have one error. Well, it's also summarized here. So we have one error. Let's scroll up first. So we have some output. We get an executive summary, which is formatted really nicely here. But so it says across 9 simulations, the agent achieved 5 goals and failed 4, was therefore resistant in the slim majority of cases, but 4 failures still show meaningful exposure. The sharpest finding is that the agent did not consistently hold the line under adversarial pressure, with nearly half of the simulations ending in failure. The dominant pattern is simply that the failure rate remained high enough to indicate the agent is not reliably robust against tested scenarios. So it seems here to
So
also,
so
yeah,
this was generated by the judge in the end, at the last step. Okay.
yeah.
Okay. What else?
So we get this overview report. Goals achieved, 5 out of 9. Success rate, 56%. I guess it's the same value. And then we have average completion score. And this is based um, on the, what do we call it? Metrics? No, criteria. The criteria. So the completion score indicates, okay, per, goal achieved or not achieved, these were the average number of criteria met in that situation. We have an average turn count of 7.3, so that's quite long. It went many, many back and forth. And then total tokens, 400,000 in this case. We can get a breakdown per persona, so we see that the retired card holder learning online banking was the most challenging, with only one successful run. But yeah,
Um,
this is just 1 out of 3.
And a quick question about the number of turns there. On average, we have 7. Can we specify the maximum number of turns?
Yes. So by
Okay.
default it's 10. You can set it to whatever you
Okay.
want.
Okay. Okay.
So I'm seeing a question as well. What outcomes are defined for an agent? Is it similar to real call agents where they get a script, offers, and what to escalate on? Are
Yeah,
there
this we
hooks?
discussed. This we
Oh, okay,
discussed
sorry.
before. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Dylan, I think Dylan confirmed it, but yeah, if you have a follow up, Dylan, on that, but I think he confirmed it. That was a good one.
Yeah, then we have the same, but for scenarios rather than the persona. So, right, so the same here. We have one that is more challenging than the other. So 1 out of 3 success rate. And then we also have this, so the judge verdict. So things can stop because of 3 reasons. We can reach the max number of turns. The judge can say we either broke a rule that must not be broken, or all the criteria are actually met, and it will end the conversation then. Or there's an error. So we have one of those here. Then from here on out, you have a couple of options, right? So I have the raw data here. I can look at the raw data. Now, this is a big JSON, so it's only useful if you know kind of what you're looking at. The second one is I can look at the org experiments. And
Yeah. How can we see the nice visualizations about the results?
yeah, so let's do the org experiment first, and then we'll go to the local dashboard. So this is the experiment that you get. So this is tracked on org. It is with the name that you passed during the invocation. And now we only have one run, but that's the nice thing here is you can have all these runs, these incremental runs be together in stored on org. We see here that the simulation is the output of the for each of the data points, and then we see here the 2 evaluators, so criteria met and goal achieved. So as I mentioned, these are the 2 things that we are currently using to format this into a shape that is understood by org, and now we get these highlightings and averages and all the
And
goodies that come.
quick question here: can we see the reasoning for those evaluation results, or
Uh,
it was not enabled? We could have enabled the reasoning, and
yeah,
here for go
actually.
achieved.
Yeah, we should enable that.
Yeah,
Yeah, we should enable
that's an
that.
easy one. But for every answer, for every judge answer here, you also have the reasoning why one, why zero, why it passed, why it didn't. So that's something supported. And what about the inputs there? All those metadata that we saw in the generation of the scenarios, they are visible here, right?
Yeah. So for the inputs, oh
Okay.
yeah,
So what we are looking at right now is the actual entire conversation of this
yes,
simulation run, this scenario.
yeah.
Okay.
So uh, yeah, so this is another fun thing. So everything is an assistant message right now because it's assistants talking to assistants. So yeah, maybe we have to see if we can improve the data that we send to org here. Um, But you see the whole conversation, including the output that is here. The input, you can see it here, but it's not really pretty. We have the right. So in this section up to somewhere here, I think we have the oh yeah here. We have all the information about the persona, and then here we have the scenario. And then here you also can see that we have, oh yeah, here you see the criteria. And then here I see the data attributes. So this is already the system prompt for the agent. Um, yeah, so it's a little bit like you have to be very close to the screen. I would say for this evaluation, so this is very handy for tracking the output and historic performance, but it's not ideal if you wanna actually dig into some of these inputs. You have the file locally, so the
Yeah,
raw
but
JSON.
I mean, I'm looking at the traces. I'm looking at
Hmm.
not the traces, but here I'm looking at the session, and I can already in this UI here. We are at the experimentation and at the review UI at the experimentation feature, and we can just add annotations here. So
Yeah,
you can have a human in the loop here annotating these simulations, and use that. Um, to improve later. So that's
yeah.
one way to use these results here. If you go back to the results from the dashboards, is there another way to look at the results?
Uh, yeah, so we have the local dashboard, which is let me just spin that up. It's also in the browser. Yeah. So right, so on the terminal you can do evaluatorq dashboard, which will spin up our dashboards, which is currently
Okay,
loading.
so this is also part of the framework, part of the library.
Yeah, this is part of the library, and it is specifically meant for these local evaluations where you want to iterate quickly, and have the visualizations there. So we are also moving or trying to move all of this into org at a later stage, but to be able to move fast, we've integrated it now with the library, so you can run it locally and have your assessments there. So here we see our run. We see, right, so this is just an overview of the runs. We see, okay, we run with Sterling agent. The name was a success. We get a score, number of cases, and then the total cost. So just clicking on it brings us to this overview dashboard. Um, we get here an overview of the agent now. So we're using GPT 5.6 Luna. We get to the description of the agent, the tools, and the knowledge bases that it has access to. So captured snapshot. Oh yeah, yeah. So we also capture all of this information in the run now, but we also call it from org live if it is an org agent, so that if there is new information there, that we can have the latest version. We get the executive summary, which we also saw on the terminal. Oh, I see it's actually duplicated. Nice, twice now, so we have to fix that one. And then we have just a lot of ways to kind of drill into the results that came from this run. So we have goal completion, the score, the conversations, the average run and errors, the outcomes, and we have these tabs here to kind of go into all of the data in a nice way. So for the breakdown, I really like this one. So you see the goal completion by persona and scenario. So if you have a lot of persona and scenarios, this thing is going to grow to very large size, but you get this very clear heat map of figuring out where are my failures present, right? So if you see a red line, that means, okay, if a certain scenario is very hard, given whatever persona. If you see a red column, that means, okay, this persona is very hard regardless of the scenario. So you immediately are able to see some patterns in user behavior. So we see some of the results that we also saw in the table at the end of the run. But here we can also click on it and see some more of these details. So for the persona, we also get all of these details shown here. And yeah, yeah,
Yeah, my question is that at this point we have already a lot of information about the results. I mean, what do we do with what do we do with these results from now, and how can we fix or improve the agents? Can we just send this to Cloud Code? Hey, Cloud Code, fix this, uh, and yeah, what can we do with this now?
yeah, good point. So we're also trying to integrate it more into here. So you have a button kind of, okay, these are the findings, and we want to integrate that into the agent. For now, we indeed recommend you to use your Claude or your coding assistant that you prefer to use with that. So we have our results. Sorry, let me close this.
So Claude will be able to, because this is a CLI, right? So
Yeah,
if we teach Claude how to use this CLI, this framework, Claude will look at the results, and if Claude has access to your agents code base or your agent system prompts, Claude could make the recommendation to for the fixes, right? I mean, that's
yeah.
how I would try to use it at least.
No, you're completely right. So as a human, you would be looking at these results and try to figure out, okay, where is it going right, where is it going wrong, and how do I then fix that in my agent? So that very hard task of thinking is now delegated to agents. So we can ask Claude Code, go over this data and try to help me with some of the suggestions here. So in this case, we only have nine data points, so it is still okay to do it by hand. But if you but if you have this on a much larger scale, say you have 100 data points or even 1,000, that starts to become very hard. So using AI to analyze that and bring you kind of aggregate suggestions is very powerful. Um, so let's have a look how well Claude can do this. The so the data is both in the file that I shared now. You can also share the org experiment with Claude. It will also know what to do with that because we have created the skills that would tell it on how to kind of interact with those entities. Um, you can see it's doing the analysis right now. And because Claude also has access to the agent, right? We have our MCP and we have our fresh off the shelf CLI as well. Both of well, and the SDK and the API. So there's many ways for it to do that. But it can have a look at your system prompt and say, okay, this is how you should update this in here. So okay, we see forged tool use in the system prompt, right? So this can be, looking up referenced cards or transactions, looking up things in the knowledge base, uh, right? So, and we have 5 other suggestions of how to do this. There's a max 10 turns ceiling in the agent. It says maybe increase that to 15 because some of these are limited by the amount of turns that are happening. So yeah, this makes it very easy, right? I can now do, okay, apply those because I have thoroughly vetted each of the suggested criteria, right? Never apply anything that you haven't checked yourself, um, and uh, and go from there. So I think I didn't really give it any information of where the agent is. So what I'm gonna do is apply those to the Sterling agent in yeah, use the org API key in and yeah, okay, let's see if
And
that works.
is able to do this because you have the orc MCP installed on orc, right? And also the skills also installed, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, you would have to explain a lot of steps here. Right.
Yeah, so for Cloud Code we have it's a marketplace, not a so we have our marketplace plugin. So we have our marketplace, which has 3 plugins, which is the MCP, the skills, and the trace integration. The trace integration will send all the Claude logs to your org workspace, so you can also track that. But the other two are simpler. So adding the MCP and adding the skills for all the org entities that are available, so you can interact with those. Um, yeah, I think in my case, the MCP is probably pointing at a different workspace, which I should have prepared perhaps slightly better. But
No, but is nice. Is nice already. And
yeah,
how do we install it? how do we close the loop now? Because if we ask Claude to make the fix, or you fix yourself, you can just start the loop again and run more scenarios, run more simulations, right? So you
Yeah.
run the loop again.
Yeah, indeed. I think the purpose here is clear. So let me go back to the slides because that's where we left off. And I see, given the time, we'll try to move through this fairly quickly. So we just did a run from 0 data points. That is a situation that a lot of people are in. They have an agent, but they don't have data. So right, so that's the base case that we support, but after that moment, you still want this to be useful. So we have two different ways of extending or proceeding to work with this. So one is to rerun a frozen data set, meaning you reuse data points from a previous instance. Obviously, this is very useful to detect regressions, like is my agent working as well on these data points as before? Hopefully even better given the changes that we applied. And then extending is a different one, meaning we say, okay, take this data set and extend it into a larger package. And so the extending is if you're starting from 0 and you generate some data, right? Then maybe in that context it's not, yeah, can still be useful. But the use case that we've specifically envisioned with this is you have production data like traces on org, and you can use those as input to create more data to use as a synthetic data set and benchmark here. Yeah, so the idea is, and I think we showed it at the beginning, is that right, this is a loop. You do the improvements, you kind of go back to the beginning. You either rerun just a simulation, or if you want more data points or different data points, you go back to the generate step, and you go through the loop again until you're at a point where you think, okay, I'm now happy with the way my agent is behaving. So imagine you start at 58%, you go to 88%. That's the whole point that we're trying to get here. So we see three main uses for this. You can use it as a regression gate. So you've generated this data, you have a baseline understanding of how well your agent is doing, and you can use that as a data set to understand, is it not getting worse? You can use it with your coding agents, right, as we just did. So just improve this thing based on simulated data. And we can also do it more autonomously, and this can lead to self-improving loops. So we can do, do this run, then apply any insights you gain from that until there's no improvements left to make. We already mentioned the plugin that we have for Claude, and this generalizes, so the skills can be installed in any coding assistant or also most non-coding AI applications these days, like ChatGPT. And in there we have, I think it's about 10 skills now, all focused at different domains of the org platform. With Claude and Codex is very easy because you have the marketplaces. Yeah, it doesn't really fit on the screen, but that's it. So if there's any further questions, feel free to share them now. If not, this is a link to a tutorial to get you started on our documentation page. And yeah, that should help you move on, get started with this and get your first agent simulated.
The agent simulator, and also this is could be a starting point also to look at the other features that you have in the framework, like the red teaming and yeah, help with evals in general there, and
Yeah,
bring your agents from other frameworks as well. And I think
yeah.
we answer all the questions. If there's any other question, otherwise, I think it was a great lunch webinar. Balk.
Yeah, I think as well. I'm just checking the polls and the Q&A. We didn't do any of the polls. That's okay. Yeah, enjoy. If you have questions or feature requests, it's all open source. So just, put in an issue or send one of us a message. I actually we skipped over the introduction part. So this is Arjen, it's my colleague. We're both the doing research here at ArcAI, and we've built this thing. So we also try to build other cool things. If you have a suggestion for a cool thing that hasn't been built on org, then let us know. We'll see what we can do.
Yeah,
Um,
and for feedback, please reach us on LinkedIn and yeah,
yeah,
use it.
yeah. Also, yeah, it would be very helpful. So this is the first time I think we did like a partner webinar, um, which I really liked as a new format. So let me know, or let us know what you thought of this. Share the feedback. Yeah, because we will be doing more of them, and it will be very helpful to refine this process over time.
Awesome, awesome.
Cool. Okay, with that, thank you very much, everyone, and enjoy whatever is left of your lunch. Bye bye.
Ciao, ciao.